Hey everybody, hope everybody is doing well. So we're doing a walk audit of portions of the valley to figure out why we don't have a lot of pedestrian life. We don't have walkable cities. Now we did it in two different places. We did it in downtown, perhaps one of the most walkable areas, although not really walkable by standards in major cities across the country and in the world. And we unfortunately had to do this in a rainy day. The rain has kind of died down. But even when this is quite walkable, it could see a lot of different improvements. There's just so many different aspects that this is really not adding up. Now, yes, you do see pedestrians right here. However, you have to understand, are the pedestrians from all different socioeconomic levels? Okay, that's another thing. Is it attractive to walk? So there's many different flaws with the system. Now, as you can see here, that this street has 4 lanes. But not a lot of these lanes are necessarily used very well. You could see here, look at now this is a 2-lane street. We're on 7th and Stewart right here. Okay, now there's many different ways that we can actually improve this system. Now, for one, we can basically, many studies have shown that when you have roundabouts, you need fewer lanes. In other words, you don't need 4 lanes. You can essentially reduce it to 2. Roundabouts also add more landscaped areas, less asphalt, which makes pedestrian life more attractive. Not to mention, crossing the street is actually a lot more attractive in many ways. I mean, you could do one-way traffic, and there has been some streets that have done that. However, let's not kid ourselves. One-way streets does have its issues. Now, notice how it's a rainy day. If you had planted trees, and there's pros and cons to it in our desert climate, that it could make pedestrians not experience so much rain, and it could provide some shade. But there is not too many trees. I mean, there's some, it could be better. You could see right here. Now, when you have roundabouts, when you reduce the number of lanes from 4 to 2, you can now make more rooms for possibly larger sidewalks, maybe a bike lane. See, we do have bike lanes, but they're not protective bike lanes. And remember, a lot of this asphalt, it's certainly not being used effectively. And then lastly, but not least, I want to show you the buildings, because that's another factor. Because you can say, well, look at this building. This building is right up front to the street. This is an apartment building right here. It says utilities included. See a lot of colors out here. It's kind of interesting, but then again, the design is not all that attractive. You can say there's a lot of blank walls, kind of the bluish, grayish walls. But you can see here, there's windows up front of the street. You can see some balconies. And that does help to an extent. It can be better, although it's preferred to have ground floor retail. There's a parking lot across the street. That's a no-no. There's an empty lot across the street. That's a no-no. We have a lot of empty lots across this downtown. And then look at this. There's this unattractive parking structure. I believe it's for the El Cortez Hotel or something like that. And then there's another empty vacant parking lot. There's all these, even literally side street parking that is not being used. And look right here, there's a bike lane, but again, it's not all that safe. Why? Because as you can see, not only there's a lack of protection, but somebody can actually just do this. They can open their door and then literally can hit the cyclist. So it's not very, very safe at all. So you let me know what you think. All right, everyone, we see the construction of the bus rapid transit system that's going to go along Maryland Parkway by the airport all the way to the heart of downtown. you could see all of these puddles, man. You see, this is one of the issues here, the flood control here. My gosh, look at all of this equipment, all these materials. Ay, 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 ay. Look at all this. So, you know, BRT is not ideal for a lot of people, but this is still, I think, going to really, really help. And I think they did this in 2 separate paths in this direction. You could see here there's been a lot of infill housing, which does help. It does have ground floor retail. Then again, it could be better. It's not as the quality that we see buildings built like in the days when the Mob Museum was built. Keep that in mind. 1930s and before. So we do see some pedestrian attractiveness, although look, there's no sidewalk here. There's a sidewalk on the other side of the street. Ooh, look at this, sun's coming up. It's very pretty. Hopefully we can see a rainbow. There's a lot of empty lots. The condition of these homes are not all that great, but again, things can improve. The sidewalk on that side of the street certainly can be improved. The street lights certainly, looks pretty decent. Some of the upgrades that they have done. You can see there's a good amount of trees, although I think they're on private property. You can see here there's this large amount of width of asphalt, as you can see here. Now, of course, it makes sense now because they have to make room for the bus rapid transit. But look at this. Even this street is still pretty damn wide. Look at this. This is probably, I would say, at least 60 feet wide of asphalt. For what? You literally, and then we wonder why cars speed so fast and people often get hit and even killed. Because really what you need is about, I would say, let's see here, 7 times 4, probably about 35 feet of asphalt space. And then probably about another 30 you could use for sidewalks and possibly bike lanes and so forth. So you could really change this up. You can put a median, you can put a bike lane. And then look at these buildings. Now, I think these infill housing, which helps, a low setback, does help. But then look at this. You have these ugly panel garage doors in the front. You know, at least what they could do is have the ground level possibly raised up a little bit for some privacy, and you walk up a few steps like those brownstones they have in these old cities. But their design or ornamentation, it could be better. It's very questionable. This side is a little bit better, as you can see here. But again, there's a lot of different improvements. And when you look at all of this, certainly it makes you want to ask, this is why a lot of people just don't want to move here. This is why they like all the other major cities across America. So you let me know what you guys think about this walk audit that we're doing right now. Look at this. And I forgot to mention, yeah, there are some alleys. That's one thing for sure. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, which the alleys do help in terms of trash collection, car storage, and everything. But if you're trying to have a street that is 60 feet wide about in terms of asphalt, then your buildings have to be tall enough to kind of have the width and height ratio that is attractive for pedestrians. Keep that in mind. All of that does definitely matter. Look at these beautiful clouds. All right, everyone. We are on the outskirts of the Las Vegas Valley. This is Rainbow Boulevard, and I think the edge of this street is Star Avenue. Only a matter of time. They might extend Star Avenue to the other side. But as you can see here, there's a school bus that's releasing children. So they have all this transportation. But as you can see here, this part of the valley is less walkable. So when we want to bring walkability, we have to design our streets in a way that was more common 80, 90 years ago that I just showed you in downtown area. Even though it had its issues, their layout, particularly their grid, the width, the building setup, everything was generally better than what we have here. Keep that in mind. Now look at all this massive asphalt we have here. Now remember, they provide all this space, all these multi-lanes is because they project that there's going to be more car traffic, but also it's the code that is in mind. Now, me and my buddy, we go to the Office of Traffic Study, Public Works, whatever, and the thing is that we've asked them some requests, but they give us a very grumpy, unpleasant response because, again, they are responsible for the status quo problem. Now, you can see here there's all this vacant land. We are literally on the outskirts, so physically there's still a lot of land left. I know there's some mountains and hills blocking it, but then again, you know, there's more valleys and more land on the other side of the mountain. So this is basically on the outskirts. Now, keep in mind, though, a lot of this land is federally owned land, but there's a lot of proposals, there has been for years, to expand more federal land to allow more of this development. But even though many of you may not like development on the outskirts, here's where the problem is. Look at these homes. You would think in the outskirts we'd have pretty much large lot homes with all this space, which is why we need a lot of cars and we're so dependent on them. But look at this. These homes are tiny lot homes. These detached homes are comparable lot sizes to what we see in downtown. In fact, in many major inner city areas across the country. And yet these are very car dependent. Look, you have all these fences and gates and walls. It's very difficult to get in and out like a maze. All these cul-de-sacs. Give me a break, as you can see right here. But again, the status quo is still happening. Look, this is such a joke, folks. It's 35 miles an hour. They tell you the speed limit, but you got people that are literally hitting the gas at 55 miles an hour. I know my camera is shaking a little bit. Right now, the temperature is 50 degrees. I think this is one of the coldest days we've experienced since March and April. So I don't know if you don't know, but we're not always warm here. We do have a cool and can get cold period from November to April. But like, as you can see here, look, a stop sign. You really think somebody's going to stop? No. But nevertheless, there's no medians right here to make left turns more efficient. You don't see any roundabouts. All those two things which can attract pedestrians, which would require fewer lanes, which would require more efficient car traffic flow. But remember, the heart of the issue that I wanted to talk about this road is, again, they are trying to mix a highway or road and a street into one. That's the most dysfunctional part about all of this, and you can see it fails to do both because people cannot cross comfortably. It's not a street that unites the community. It brings a sense of neighborhood feel, and it fails to offer high speeds. Now, why do we have this system? Well, I'm going to upload a video about this. Is because they're too lazy to make a transition. You see, these developments are done in a very scattered fashion. So one pile of land is built, usually large-scale, single-use developments in a very scattered fashion. And then you have these two-lane roads that connect to these areas. And rather than converting these roads into streets and then separating the fast-moving traffic in a freeway, highway, or whatever, they just try to basically mix the two, which is very, very dysfunctional. Which they put businesses along the side. They don't want to reduce the speed, but again, it fails to do both. So this is how you end up with stroads, believe it or not. But again, the plan is to do more of the status quo. It's more of the same BS. Oh, look at this beautiful sunset. It's more of the same problems that we have with congestion, costs, everything. I mean, look at this. You are paying for this son of a gun crap. The county commissioners, 6-1, voted to extend the gas tax. Well, where's the money going to go? It's going to fund to maintain and build all of this. Look at this. This street light, as you can see right here, it's designed to have a traffic light installed. Who's going to fund that? It's not always the developer. It's you, the taxpayer, and it's costly. All these utility lines, you name it. All of these environmental impacts, social, cultural, beauty, health impacts, the list just goes on. the dependency on low gas prices. And I don't know if you don't know, gas prices are around $3.70 a gallon, which is higher, much higher than the national average, which tells you the real problem is people don't have alternative ways to get around a car. If you don't have walkable cities, if you have all these looped up street designs with these garage panels covering the front of the homes, that's not going to be pedestrian friendly. And without pedestrian friendly development, you don't get transit oriented development. It's simple. Oh my goodness. They can't even make room for a protected bike lane. Look at the width of the sidewalk. Well, at least there is a sidewalk, because a lot of the outskirts of the metro areas don't even have sidewalks. So at least we got to be proud of what we have. But if you are building like this, the worst part is, unlike downtown, you can't really do a renewal very easily. Infill developments are a lot more difficult. And this is what Charles Marone has talked about, is that these areas cannot transition over time. That is a significant issue. So you let me know what you think. Again, here's the high school. Oh my gosh. So the kids, look how they have to walk to get to high school. Unbelievable. They got to get chauffeured by their parents. And here's the view of the strip. So you let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much. So as you can see here, more tiny lot homes, but an unwalkable streets, arterial strode, really brings down the desirability. But as you can see here, this is the front view of the home, unlike other tract homes, and they've got some decent detailing. It does look a little nicer, looks cute compared to other tract homes. But then again, it's gated, and you don't have something that you could easily walk to, like a corner store or anything. How sad. So at least there's some upsides here. The garage is in the rear, but as we can see a little further ahead, they're building more housing. I think this is multifamily, but it's still car dependent. You could see how this intersection design is not safe. It's a high risk for car accidents, pedestrians getting hit, because these stop signs don't really do much. Again, no roundabouts, no medians, hardly any of this stuff, no corner stores. Unbelievable. Just difficult to get in and out.